What's going on, YouTube? This is BoxingWave. Make sure you subscribe to the channel. Also, follow me on Instagram and Twitter at BoxingWave10. Let's talk welterweights, my favorite division. You gotta love this division, all right? It's just the most gossipy division out there, next to the heavyweight division. So let's get into it. Manny Pacquiao comes out, says he's looking to challenge himself and fight an MMA fighter. He wants Conor McGregor. All right. They both, this is nothing new. We've heard about this. They both have shared their interest of fighting each other in the ring, in the boxing ring. All right. Manny Pacquiao is still currently the WBA champion at welterweight. He earned that title by beating undefeated Keith Thurman 2 years ago, July of 2019, and hasn't been in the ring since, has been inactive since that win. So has Keith Thurman. Manny Pacquiao brings up Errol Spence, who recently beat Danny Garcia on his return to the ring after the accident that he was involved in. All right, but he picked up a good win against Danny Garcia. Good performance, at least in my eyes. I thought it was a good performance against someone that he was supposed to beat in the first place. Right. So let's talk about it. Manny Pacquiao. Nothing against Manny Pacquiao. Huge respect for Manny Pacquiao. Living legend, all-time great, all that good stuff. He's all that. But it's not really about that. If you're going to fight Conor McGregor, do whatever you want. You and Floyd want to fight whoever you guys want to fight. It can be whoever you want. It doesn't really matter. If you choose to fight these people, that's your choice. I have no problem with whoever Manny decides to face. I'm not going to sit here and try to make logic out of his comments, his statements. All right. You want to challenge yourself and fight MMA fighters, but you want to fight them in a boxing match. That's not really a challenge for you. A lot of fights you've been in, this is not one of your greatest challenges. It's a money fight. It's a money grab. And that's cool. I'm all with it. Same thing with Floyd. Floyd fought him already. Floyd fought the Japanese fighter in an MMA fight without it being an MMA fight. It's weird. Do whatever you want to do. Floyd's going to fight Logan Paul next. I mean, who cares? I have no problem with what these guys choose to do. But when there's an actual title involved and you're holding on to a title without having any boxing matches scheduled, you're not defending your title or anything like that, that's the only thing I have a problem with. All right? Relinquish the title. Let somebody else that's actively fighting, real welterweights, fight for the title. All right? It's no disrespect. It's just like, give up the title then. Let one of these other guys, either the mandatory who is your Dennis Ugas, let him fight. Let Errol or Bud fight for the title. I was thinking about the recent petition that Lomachenko had for the WBC title in that fight against Luke Campbell. He stepped in. He wanted to get, he was unified at the time. I believe he was unified at the time. And he wanted that fight. And he petitioned for the fight, because the belt was up for grabs. Because it was Mikey Garcia's belt before moving up to fight Spence. So I'm sure Bud or Crawford will probably do the same thing. Probably Crawford because he's already on that side. He's already unified. So I don't know how that is going to work. I would rather see either Spence or Bud fight Ugas for the title. That would be great. Preferably Bud. I would prefer Bud to do it because if Bud were to do it, it would probably bring them closer to actually fighting each other. Even though I don't think it's going to fight. I already expressed my views on that. I kind of gave up on it. That's why I'm not really doing any more videos about it. But yeah, listen, with Pacquiao, the whole comments about Spence being slow, you can say, I mean, if that's how you feel, that's cool. If you think he's slower than Thurman and you think he's not the same since the accident or whatever it is, that's your, whatever opinion you have on a fighter, that's your opinion, that's your views. All right. My thing is, like, I didn't hear the interview. This is one of those interviews that is just a journalist is just putting out to the press, like, what the interview, he quoted some of the things that Manny Pacquiao said. I don't know if it was taken out of context or not, but all I know is that I read several articles that said Manny Pacquiao wants to challenge himself and fight Conor McGregor, an MMA fighter, and he felt that Spence is too slow. He's slower than Thurman, yada, yada, yada. Um, if you're not going to fight him, and if you're going to fight Conor McGregor, because I never expected Manny Pacquiao to fight Errol Spence or Terrence Bud Crawford at this point. I know that both of them want to fight Manny Pacquiao, but if you're not going to fight neither one of them, why even bring them up at this point? Or your opinion on their performance, unless it was asked, probably was asked, and Manny Pacquiao responded and replied with, I don't know, he's slow. Of course, he's going to big up the fighter that he beat, which is Keith Thurman. I personally think both Bud and Errol Spence, and I can't prove it, were more threats, bigger threats to Manny Pacquiao at the time that Pacquiao won that fight. Part of the reason why I picked Pacquiao to win that fight is because of the condition that Thurman was in at this time. I mean, Pacquiao in his prime would probably beat all of these guys. All right? But he's not in his prime. And when Keith Thurman fought him, Keith Thurman is already past his prime, even though he's much younger. All right? He is. Injury prone, inactivity, yada, yada, yada. So, I don't know. I thought the comments was uncalled for, but I don't know what kind of context it was in. Maybe he was just asked on his views and he was giving his honest opinion. All right? So, look. Conor McGregor fight, I'm totally not interested in. I think Manny Pacquiao is just going to beat him up until he either stops him or to a decision. It is what it is. My major concern is that WBA title. Who's going to fight for it? I know Ugas is going to fight someone for that title or be elevated to a WBA champion. I personally hope he has to fight someone for the belt. All right? But if not, he's just going to get elevated, and he's most likely going to fight Spence, because if we're talking about the business aspect and the politics, he already wants to fight Spence. He's already part of that side of the street. We already know how that works. He's there to fight Spence. Spence wants to fight Manny Pacquiao. If it's not Pacquiao, which it isn't now, if it's not Canelo, who he recently called out to, if it's not Canelo, if it's not Pacquiao, I see it being Ugas. It is what it is. I know Sean Porter's like the WBC, like he's like the mandatory again already after that comeback, that win that he picked up right after losing to Spence the first time. All right, so I could see Spence. I honestly could see Spence fighting Porter again before Bud faces him. Or no, I mean, or yeah, he faces Bud. I just don't see the Bud fight happening. But since we're talking about it and I'm here, I think Bud should fight Porter. I think he should. You're not gonna get the Spence fight. And the extreme Spence fans at this point, they don't really want Bud to fight Spence unless Bud beats everybody that Spence beat. So now that we're at that space, I think he should fight Porter. Beat Sean Porter up worse than anybody else has beaten him, and at least shut those people up. I know your career is, you're feeling prideful, and your career is not based on what Spence is doing, but make it work. You're with Bob, make Bob work. I seen a report a couple weeks back about Sean was saying something about, pay me, don't lowball me, don't pay me $1 million. I think Sean Porter is worth more than $1 million. During COVID, he's still worth more than $1 million, especially if Kell Brook could get paid a couple million. I do agree with that. I think he's worth more than $1 million, at least 2. He should be getting 2. But at the same time, he doesn't have a title. He doesn't have a title. You know, if you get paid a couple million to fight Spence with a title, you know, I don't know. You know, how much more should you get paid? So you can go back and forth with that. I do think he should be getting paid at least more than $1 million. All right. But if you don't agree with the money, at the end of the day, you are a mandatory. When you're the mandatory, and I said this in one of my lives already, if you are the mandatory, exercise your mandatory position. And you don't agree with the money with Bob Arum, then go to a purse bid. That's how every other fight works. Why are we talking about whether or not Bob Arum is going to lowball you? You know, you can also, like, you can work it out with the PBC. You guys can work something out. And the highest bidder is going to pay the money that you deserve. Why are you leaving it solely up to Bob Arum? You are the mandatory. So if you're the mandatory, just like when you was a WBC mandatory and you wanted your shot, you're the WBO mandatory and you want your shot. So if you're doing all of that talking, if you really want the fight, because you're not the champion, if you want to become champion again, 3-time champion? Enforce that so you can get a title shot against Terrence Bud Crawford. And Crawford, on the other hand, should fight Sean Porter. He should fight him. If you really want to shut people up, I mean, you have anything going on? I don't know. I don't know what's going on, but fight Sean Porter. As people are saying that this is the guy that's the roadblock, you're a roadblock. You know, everybody's a fan of Sean Porter now. You know, where were you guys when Sean Porter was struggling against Julio Diaz? I was around back then. Where were you guys at? Where were you guys all those years when you expected Sean to lose fights? I mean, just not too long ago, people thought Sean Porter was going to get knocked out by Errol Spence, including Errol Spence. But now he's the greatest thing in the world. I don't know. I've been watching Sean Porter a long time, and it wasn't until Errol Spence where people started making him to be this elite fighter in boxing. Like, you talk about him like he's a pound-for-pound fighter. I don't know when that ever began. You know, but Bud should beat him. Bud would beat him, and he should fight him just to prove a point. Because the Spence fight is not gonna happen. It's not gonna happen. If he's your mandatory, fight your mandatory. You know, all this friendship stuff. Yo, Sean has done enough talking at this point to where Bud should fight him. He's your mandatory. You got to get the mandatories out the way anyway. You know, fight Sean Porter. Work it out. Even if the money's not right, go to a purse bid. You guys will figure it out. Make the fight happen. And as far as Spence, he's most likely going to get Ugas. It's the easiest fight to make. If the WBA is either stripped or he's elevated or whatever. You know, Manny Pacquiao, he's a legend. He can go on and do whatever he wants to do. He could go on to fight Conor McGregor 2 times. They can have 2 fights. I am cool with that. I'm actually going to watch it, enjoy it. It should be fun seeing Pacquiao knock this guy around the ring. You know, it's cool. Hopefully Conor wins his next UFC fight. But it's just a messy division, man. It really is. It's a messy division. You know, I never seen certain standards apply for every single divisions. But when it comes to this division, it's just, I don't know, the same standards just don't. I'm just frustrated of the division, clearly. You know, I've never seen people make up the rules on the fly as time goes on like they do in the welterweight division. You know, so, but that's my views. You know, I think Spence should probably unify if he can against Ugas. If that WBA strap is available, it should be available. I don't know why it wouldn't be available, because Pacquiao is not fighting any ranked fighters it doesn't sound like he's interested in do it. And I don't think Mikey Garcia should be getting the opportunity to do it before all of these other fighters. All right? So Pacquiao could do what he wants to do. It's not about Pacquiao. It's about the WBA strap. All right? And when it comes to Bud, yes, I do think Bud should fight Sean Porter. And it's not on Bob Arum. Let's not make it all on Bob Arum. It's not about Bob Arum. It's about you being in a mandatory and you enforcing your position as a mandatory fighter. That's it. Do you want it or do you not want it? Which one do you want? Do you want it or no? It's up to you. All right? I'll see you guys on the next one. Peace.